Hello everyone. I have a really fun video for you today. If you like to craft on a budget, then I think you're going to really enjoy this video. As part of the Creative Crew group on Facebook, we do a weekly challenge. For the last 2 weeks, we've done the same challenge where we are creating one-of-a-kind handcrafted items and then leaving them out in public places with a word of encouragement just to brighten up someone's day, spread some love within our communities. I wanted to do mine on a budget because I wanted to make several items that I could leave in lots of different places. And what better place to shop on a budget than the Dollar Tree, right? So look what I have created. I have created 10 little handmade journals. They're fabric covered journals. They're all blank inside so that the person who finds this journal can use it in any way that they want. Shopping list, grocery list, addresses, phone numbers. They could journal in this. They could give this to someone else that they know as a gift. It's all ready to go. So one of the great things about the Dollar Tree is paired with things that we already have as crafters like stamps, scissors, and glue, paper cutters. Most of the items that made up these journals came from the Dollar Tree. Sometimes you can even find fabric like pillowcases at the Dollar Tree. Also, if you go down at the office supplies aisle and the crafting aisle, sometimes you can find washi tape. You can find tags and stickers and stencils, beads and rhinestones and flat bat pearls. Who knows? Every Dollar Tree is different. Sometimes my Dollar Tree carries things one time only. And so I go often and browse through and see what I can find. But yes, most of the items from these journals came from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to walk you from the very beginning to the very end, how to make this journal. And we're going to go ahead and get started now. To get started with our journals, we're going to first start with the cover. You'll see I'm going to make 10 journals. And so at the Dollar Tree, I found this craft foam, and this is going to be the body of our cover. It does not matter what color it is because we're going to be covering this. This will act as the body and the structure of our cover. And we're going to quilt through this, which is totally optional. It's totally up to you. But that's what we're going to do. This is going to act as our body and our batting to make some quilted little journal covers. Now, these foam sheets measure 6 inches high from the top to the bottom and 9 inches from left to right. I'm going to go ahead and use it just the way that it came in the package. You could cut this. You could actually find smaller sheets and use that. The size of the journal cover is totally up to you. So this is a customizable journal that we're making, but I'm going to go ahead and use this right out of the package. The first thing that I want to do is I want to cut these directly in half. So I'm going to just take my straight edge ruler and I'm going to line up my cover or my foam right on my cutting mat, and I'm going to cut each one of my 10 pieces right in half. So half of 9 would be 4.5. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. I had to double check that. You could use a utility X-Acto knife. I'm just going to use my rotary cutter and cut that right in half. And what that's going to do is reduce the bulk when our journal closes. So we're going to go from having a bulky binding like this. That's going to be hard to see because it's black. To a more flatter book. Maybe that'll give you an idea of how our book will close. So I'm going to go through each one of my 10 pieces, cut them directly in half, and then we'll get started with some fabric. So I just finished cutting my 10 sheets of foam. So I have my 20 individual sheets. This will make our 10 book covers. So next I went to my fabric stash and I pulled a variety of fabrics. So in this stack I have some quilters cotton and I have some upholstery type of fabric that you would cover chairs and make pillows and things like that with. It's a little bit thicker and yes, it is a lovely fabric. So what I've done is I just went through and pre-cut some fabric, and let me show you. I cut it a little bit bigger than 2 of our individual sheets with a small gap in between. So let's just lay out our foam sheets just like this with a small gap right in between. And I cut my fabric a little bit bigger on all sides. It does not have to be precise or exact. You just want enough fabric that you can pull over to the other side and glue down in place. And what this will do is give a nice finished edge to our journal cover. And leaving this small gap right in the middle will allow that fabric to close really nicely and give a nice edge to the corner of our book. So what I'm going to do next is with each one of my book covers, I'm going to take some Fabri-Tac glue. I'm going to use that right on the foam sheet with each one of my fabric pieces. It's going to take a second because I'm running out of glue. And I'm just going to apply a little bit of Fabri-Tac right on this foam sheet. Just like that. The Fabri-Tac glue is permanent and you can sew through it, so I really like that. Next, I'm going to just lay that right on my fabric. We're going to leave a small gap right in the middle. Just like that. And lay that right down into place. Now what I like to do at this point is just flip it over and make sure that fabric is nice and smooth on the other side. We'll flip it back over, and I'm going to take a pair of scissors at this point and go through and trim all of my corners. I like to cut my fabric close to, but not exactly right to the corners. And once we have the corners trimmed, we can take some more glue. And I usually like to start on the longer side. I'm going to apply a little bit of glue right there and fold that fabric right up, nice and flush against the edge of that foam, and just press it right into place. We will go around and do the fabric on each one of the 4 sides of our journals, and I'll just repeat this process off camera for each of the 9 other journal covers. Now at this point you'll want to let this dry, so I'm going to go through and do the fabric for each one of my 9 other books, but let's take a look at this so far. This is the edge of our book, just like that. And our book will have nice, pretty finished edges. The awesome thing about the Fabri-Tac glue is it is permanent and it dries pretty quickly and you can sew through it. So let me go ahead and get the fabric put on my 9 other books and we're ready to move on. Now you'll see I have my stack of journal covers. They're all nice and dry and ready to work with. Now comes some really fun parts of the journals. You could leave your journal cover just like this, and this could be your finished journal cover. However, I like to dress mine up a little bit with some embellishments, and you can use all kinds of things. So what I've gathered are some little snippets of lace, some eyelash yarn, some ribbon, some buttons. You can find buttons at the Dollar Tree. Depending on your Dollar Tree, the assortment varies, but you can find buttons there. I found some sequins. We might use some of these on some of the journals. You can find all kinds of ribbon. I'm going to show you how we'll make a page marker with this ribbon here in just a little bit. And I've also gathered some elastics, and I found these at the Dollar Tree. we're going to use this as the closure. So what I also gathered were some stamps that I already had and some Versamagic stamping ink. I'm going to go ahead and add some sentiments to the front of my covers, and that's optional as well. So you'll see here I've taken actually the back side of this fabric. I thought that was pretty on the back side as well, so I stamped out a little sentiment, and that is very easy. Just going to take my stamp pad, ink it up really well, just like that, and we're going to stamp on some fabric. There we go. So just like that, we have a little sentiment that we could add to the front of one of our journals. I like to take some pinking shears and give this an edge all the way around. One of the things I love about the journals is it gives you the freedom that you don't have to be exact all of the time. So just like that, we have a fabric sentiment that we could add to the front of one of our books. Imagine the possibilities with all the different kinds of stamps and sayings. So what I like to do is, see our journal's still not finished on the inside. I'm going to just arrange a layout with some of my little findings here. And I'm actually going to sew these in place. If you do not want to do that, you could glue these down with some Fabri-Tac glue. That would work just as well. But I like the look of the sewn edges on all of my little trinkets here. Let's see, let's find a place for this eyelash yarn. Maybe we'll tuck it right up underneath of that sentiment. For our closure, I'm going to use a button that has 4 buttonholes, just like that. And we're going to actually sew in one of these elastics. So I'll bring one of these to the sewing machine. And I have some buttons that I want to add here and there. And I'm actually just going to add the buttons with some embroidery floss. At the end, you could sew them with your machine if you wanted to. So there is the layout for the front of my book, and I'll go through and find little sentiments and things that I want to add to my other book covers as well, and then we'll meet at the sewing machine. Bringing our journal cover over, you'll see that I have just the regular pressing foot on my machine. You could use your free motion foot if you wanted to. I'm going to use a variety of stitches. You could use all of the different decorative stitches that are in your machine. You could use a zigzag or a straight stitch. You'll see that all of my little findings are loose. I did not glue them in place. And yeah, I'm just going to do a variety of stitches right over top of each one of these elements. And once I'm done, I'll snip the little ends of my eyelash yarn. And I think that'll be very, very pretty. So I'm just going to have fun sewing on these elements. Now for the closure of my books, I want to use the little elastics that I found at the Dollar Tree. Most of them come with a little silver band that connects the ends. that's actually the part that we're going to hide underneath of a button. To do this, I'm going to use the zigzag stitch on my machine. You could sew this in place by hand when you're adding the button to your journal. I'm going to go ahead and set a satin stitch at a width of, let's see, 3.4, and I'm going to set the stitch length to, let's see, 0.4. And what I really want to happen is for the needle to go from one side of the metal attachment from one side to the other without hitting this little piece right here that connects the ends. You'll also want to figure out where you want your closure to be, and I know that I want mine to be about right, let's see, we'll put a button right here. So that's where we're going to attach our elastic. I'm just going to hold it in place just like that, and the needle will go from one side over to the other. I will test out my zigzag stitch before I start hitting on the foot pedal. Oh, let's make it a little bit wider. See, I'll go to a 4.4 and see how wide that is. I just want to make sure that my needle is not going to hit that little metal band. You could just crank your machine by hand if you want to. Actually, yep, we'll just do that. I'm going back and forth on both sides. This way I have really good control of where that needle's going. And I know I'm not going to risk breaking my needle. But that elastic will be nice and sewn down really well because it is going to get used a lot. So now our elastic is sewn down really well in place. We can close our book just like this. Just like that. And the metal part of the elastic will be hidden by a button. Now that we have our elastic attached, one of the things I wanted to point out, and this actually might work better for you, is I only sewed it in one place when we shot the video, and then I scooted the elastic when I moved it to close the journal, and the metal part actually slid from underneath of the stitches. So what I did to really secure this is I moved right above the metal part of the clasp, and I did another set of zigzag stitches. So actually you could zigzag stitch right before and right next to the metal clasp, and you don't have to worry about hitting that with your needle. And now our elastic is really nice and secure. You can see all of the stitches will be hidden on the inside of our cover. So now we can come through, and I like to use some embroidery floss. And I'm going to thread a needle that has a little bit of a larger eye. For me, that's easier to use when using embroidery floss. And I'm just going to attach these buttons, and I'll bring you along. Now, I personally have never found a DMC thread or floss at the Dollar Tree, but I have found decorative twine that you could use to sew on your buttons and sew in your pages for your journal. I've also seen little sewing kits with needles, a little thimble, and thread, so you could use that as well. I'll just bring you along as I tie on my button, and then I'm going to move over and attach a couple of decorative buttons on the front of my journal cover as well. The foam is soft and easy to sew through, so that's really nice. I think you could also do some hand quilting through this foam if you really wanted to. Now before we finish the inside portion of our cover, I want to go ahead and add a little fabric bookmark. So I'm going to use some of the ribbon that I found at the Dollar Tree. I'm going to pull off a section. We're going to actually add it right in to the middle of our book. And I'm just doing a eyeball measurement of how long I want that to be. And taking our Fabri-Tac glue, I'm going to add a little bit of glue right into the middle of our spine. Just like that. It's going to just hold our ribbon right in place. Just like that. We'll let that dry, and I'm going to prepare our file folders next to add a nice finished cover for the inside of our journal. Once you're done adding the closure and your bookmark and all of the elements to the front of your journal cover, we're ready to finish the lining of our journal. So I'm going to use some of the file folders that I found at the Dollar Tree. They come in a legal size and the regular size. I like buying the legal size because once I cut my lining, I have a good chunk that goes into my scraps for projects down the road. I also like using the file folders because of the color. It goes with everything. However, you could use cardstock for this process, or a good thicker patterned paper as well. So I'm going to take one of my file folders, and the awesome thing is that from one file folder, whoops, I have several here. From one file folder, we're going to get 2 linings. So that's nice as well. So our foam originally measured 6 inches from top to bottom and 9 inches from left to right. I want to cut my file folder a little bit smaller than that so it just fits right inside of our book. That measurement might be different if you have altered or made your book cover a different size. Once we have our linings cut, here's 2 of my linings. We're going to go ahead and fold the lining directly in half. And I like to just score that nice and crisp. I also like to go on both sides of my score mark right in the middle and create another score as well. And that just helps the file folder fold right in the middle. I'm going to take some Fabri-Tac glue and glue one side of my file folder. We're going to put that right in the middle and then line that up with our journal cover and press it down in place. And then I will glue the other side. This will finish our journal cover, and now we can start working on the inside pages that go inside our journal. So I'm just going to take a little ruler and measure the size of the booklet that I want to sew into my journal cover. I'm going to show on the screen a variety of different things that I like to use and things that you can find as your pages from the Dollar Tree. Go ahead and collect a variety of different things, pages for your book, and then you can cut them with the measurement that you took for your booklet size. You can find tissue paper, sketch paper, doodling paper, copy paper, notebook paper, pattern paper. I really like to put envelopes and cards inside my journals too. Tissue paper is one of my favorite things to add inside my journal covers as well. Once you have all of your papers, you're just going to go through your stack and fold them right in half. And then you can start arranging the layout for your booklet. So I like to just divide up all of my different papers and envelopes and cards and tissue papers and put them right inside one another to form the pages of our book. Once you have all of your pages, we're going to open it up right to the middle. You can also find this cork board at the Dollar Tree as well, and that'll help protect your work table. We're going to take a sharp, pointy object and poke 2 holes right into the middle of our book all the way through the fabric. Once you've done that, you can rethread your needle with some decorative baker's twine or the DMC thread, and we're going to start from the inside, go through the outside cover, come back in, and tie a knot. And this will secure all of the pages in our book. And guess what? Just like that, we have finished our Dollar Tree fabric covered journals with a finished edge and a bookmark with an elastic closure. I cannot wait to start leaving these out in different places for people to find. I really hope that you have enjoyed this video. I would love to see copy your journal if you want to share that with me in the Creative Crew group. A link will be down in the description box below. Bye, everybody.